Welcome, modelers. In this video I begin assembling the poop deck parts, and this covers part of steps 19, 20, and 49 in the Trumpeter instruction booklet. And a Pontos instruction booklet error is discovered. Well, this is part 15 of my Trumpeter 1 to 200 scale Titanic build series. In part 8 of this video series, I showed what needed to be done to the poop deck prior to applying the wood decking. And it so happens that the poop deck was the first part that I applied the Pontos wood decals to. And this so happened to be the first time I ever applied a wood deck to a model. And if you look closely at the poop deck, you will see that I am off ever so slightly at the rear half of the poop deck. That's an amateur for you, right? This creates a problem with lining up some of the parts that will be glued to the deck and will be discussed a little bit later in this video. Now the first part to work on is the Pontos replacement part G51 for the vents supporting the docking bridge. Now I bent the part per the instructions to make a rectangular box. Then I used the square impression under the docking bridge part as a jig to hold the box into the correct shape while I applied the super glue. Now this helped eliminate any cracks that could show along the edges. You will note that the Pontos replacement part will not use this square impression molded into the bottom of the docking bridge like the Trumpeter vent part would. It's just going to sit just inside of this impression, and I will get to that later. You will also notice that the Pontos vent is shorter than the Trumpeter kit part G9 vent as shown in the picture. Now this is because the Pontos wood decking moves the location of the vents toward the center of the ship by about 1/8 of an inch on each side. The picture shows the original vent location as the square impression molded into the poop deck. And then this picture shows the wood decking covering the square impressions and places the square cutouts for the Pontos vents about 1/8 inward toward the center. And as a result, the molded holes in the poop deck are not used. And since the molded holes under the docking bridge are not used either, a shorter part is needed. Once the vents were glued with no cracks showing, they were painted satin white and then super glued to the poop deck at the position indicated by the Pontos wood decking. Next, it was time to modify the poop deck to compensate for the wood decking from being slightly off center. Now the picture shows a closer look at how the wood decking is off to the starboard side and off forward just ever so slightly, but enough to be a problem for gluing the skylights, the capstans, and the docking bridge staircase support. So to keep these parts within the cutouts of the wood decking, I needed to make the holes for the capstans bigger, and then I needed to shave off some of the molded plastic guides so the skylights and the staircase support would fit in with their wood decking cutouts. The slight repositioning of these parts shouldn't be noticeable. Next, it was time to assemble the docking bridge and add lights to the bottom of it. I glued the support posts to the bottom of the docking bridge and wired up 4 402 SMDs. Now I sanded grooves into the area where the staircase support met the docking bridge and ran the wires through the staircase support and then glued the support to the docking bridge. Now to help hide the wires, I hand painted them using white craft paint. Then I just test fit the docking bridge to the poop deck to make sure it fit correctly. Now you will notice that the docking bridge does overhang the hull slightly, and this should not be the case. This is because the docking bridge width is to scale, but the width of the poop deck is slightly narrower to scale, as is the rest of the hull. Well, this is just a minor observation, and this is basically, an error with the Trumpeter kit. Now moving to the forward part of the poop deck. Under the forward part of the poop deck is the third class entrance. And on each side there are double doors. So right here's a double door, and on the other side over here there's another double door. Now these are not molded into the kit, and the Ponto's instructions really don't talk about this either, but the kit does have these doors, and they're part D32. I think anyway. I couldn't find anywhere in the Ponto's instruction booklet where these double doors would fit other than this position here. So I basically just painted them and glued them right to the location where these doors should be located under the poop deck. And then also I drilled some holes into the side of the plastic so that when I put some lights under the poop deck, that the lights will shine through these portholes in these doors as well. And then while I was thinking about it too, I painted the crane bases. Now, all these crane bases, they basically have a gray top. Some of them will have that brown, red, kind of rust color that is called dark mass on them. And there's some of them that don't. They all have the gray top, and I just used some primer that I added a little bit black to darken up the gray, because the gray was a little too light, but that turned out pretty good. Assembling the capstans was next. The Ponto's instruction booklet has an error regarding the capstans found on page 8. Now the Ponto's parts used to assemble the capstans are B33, B34, and brass part number 3. Now the booklet, as you can see, shows B35 instead of B33 being used. And it's just a mislabel. It should be B33. And then once these 3 parts were assembled, I hand painted them using Shamrock Green Craft paint. And then the brand name is Anidas. That's A-N-I-D-A-S. The Titanic-CAD-plans.com website has an article why the color green for the capstans is favored over the color gray or black. So you might want to look that over and just make your own decision what color you really want to make them. And then finally I assembled the fairlead wheels using the Ponto's replacement parts. And then once assembled these fairlead wheels, I painted them satin black using the same Krylon paint I used for the hull. So that's as far as I gotten so far. The next video I hope to finish the poop deck and aft well deck. Building this model is kind of like a side hobby, so it's taking a long time and it's a slow process. So stay tuned for the next video.